Salutations, every pup, and welcome to Chapter 13 of Ignore the Dementor by NinjaPandaScholar. As always, the link to the fic will be in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's jump on into it. Chapter 13, A Very Dementor Christmas. Christmas Eve continued to be a tense occasion as Harry, Sirius, and Remus attempted to renegotiate their relationships with each other. Luckily, Snape had left well before dinner, or it may have been a disaster. As it was, the older men had come to terms with the fact that they could not try to parent the teen that had never grown up with parents or anyone who actually cared or who saw them more as brothers or uncles than parental figures. Plus, neither one of them were equipped to be a parental figure at that time anyway. Harry had to come to terms with the fact that there were people who cared about him and who he was expected to actually talk to and tell when something was bothering him. Everything may have started with Harry becoming a Dementor and not telling anyone, but it spiraled into a long overdue discussion into who they all were to each other. After Harry explained Sirius's emotions to Remus, since Sirius was incapable of coherently explaining himself, Remus agreed to help him sneak out occasionally through either Polyjuice or his Padfoot. It was eventually clear to all of them that if Sirius were made to continue to be isolated in the house he hated, he would eventually go completely mad instead of the slightly mad he was currently. It helped that Harry was absolutely positive he could break Sirius out of prison, whether the Dementors were still there or not, since he could easily walk through walls and invisibly traverse shadows. They all agreed it would not be their first choice of a good time, though. They were all emotionally drained when they went to their rooms to crash for the night. Harry grinned fondly at the vases of dead flowers in his room as he went to his trunk to pull out the homework he was going to do after putting Jamie to sleep. "I knew there was something not quite right about you," the portrait on Harry's wall drawled in an aristocratic tone. Harry jumped in surprise. "Headmaster Black! You scared me." "I scared a Dementor. That's not something you hear every day." Phineas Nigellus Black smirked from his frame. "Please, you must have been in Dumbledore's office when he found out. It's not like this is new information to you." Harry raised an eyebrow as he organized his textbooks on the desk Creature had set up in the room when he had removed Ron's extra bed. "True. I do love a good told-you-so moment, though. It's exceptionally cathartic." Headmaster Black laughed. "I find I'm less confused about you now. And also more so, as well." Harry crossed his arms and smirked at the man. "Oh, really? You can't figure me out? A teenage Dementor? There's so many of us out in the world, though." The portrait rested his chin on a hand and sat more comfortably in the armchair in his painting. "Sarcasm does not become you, young man. As I was saying, you are woefully predictable as a Creature and Gryffindor, but I am confused at your willingness to forgive the Slytherin head of the house. I admit, I only know what I've heard from watching you from the paintings here, but since there is a painting in the attic and I have this one in your room, I feel that I've heard quite enough." Harry rubbed the back of his neck tiredly. Jamie may have been in a semblance of a coma for several days, but that just led to him tiring out faster by being up and about during the evening after so long in bed. "It's fine that I forgive Snape. It's less that I forgive Snape, and more that I forgive myself, if that explains anything." Headmaster Black glared at Harry enough to communicate that it definitely did not. The Dementor sighed and sat on the bed to get more comfortable. "I've been blaming myself for Voldemort's actions all these years, and I finally realized that when Snape was telling me everything was his fault. Yes, he shouldn't have done what he did, but I realized that Voldemort was the one who actually wanted to kill and who made the decision to take a life. If I could see that Voldemort was the ultimate person to blame for my parents' deaths instead of Snape, then I could forgive myself for it and Cedric's death as well. I could let go of responsibility. That it really wasn't my fault at all, but that bastard of a Dark Lord." "That seems very Hufflepuff of you," the portrait smirked. Yes, well, I still don't like Snape, and still think he's a bastard himself, but he's also saved my life several times and is suffering to bring us information that can take down Voldemort. I think I can get past my feelings for the common goal of taking down that abomination of a man, Harry said vehemently. Phineas Nigellus slowly nodded, and an evil smile turned up the corners of his painted mouth. I take it back, he said. You really should have been in my house. Harry shrugged. Probably, but I couldn't really care less at this point. House rivalry is childish when the rights of magical creatures are being taken away and when a demon is trying to take over the world. School in general pales in comparison. Headmaster Black burst out laughing, very disconcertingly. When Harry looked at him questioningly, the painting just shook his head and continued laughing. I'm keeping my eye on you, boy. I expect great things. The man laughed his way out of the portrait and the room. Mental. Harry sighed, and laid back on the bed to let go of Jamie and tuck him in for the night. It was dawn before Hedwig returned. Returned probably wasn't the best word, as Harry was reasonably sure she'd never left, but was taking out her anger on small rodents in the neighborhood. Thankfully, she had waited until Harry was separated from Jamie before trying to pick a hole in his skeletal hand. Oi! I left you treats! Harry exclaimed as a sharp beak dug into his hand. As a Dementor, she couldn't break the skin, but that didn't mean it didn't hurt. You could have come and joined me, you know. He glared at her. The Azkaban owl wasn't nearly as smart as you. Hedwig huffed and preened, obviously agreeing. She then turned a death glare on him, though. Yes, I know you like Luna and Dobby and don't want to leave, but it seemed like a good idea at the time, Harry replied to the glare. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking straight. Hedwig looked warningly down her beak at him, her yellow eyes narrowed. I promise never to do it again. I'll tell you first before I go anywhere, Harry promised solemnly. The owl gave a short nod of her head before nuzzling into Harry's tattered robes. I love you too. He smiled at her and scratched her feathers. Happy Christmas, love. Christmas morning saw Harry cooking breakfast in the kitchen for everyone. To Remus's complete surprise and probable heart attack, he was doing it in his Dementor form, though, wanting to let Jamie sleep in a little more. Cub! Remus exclaimed, clutching his chest dramatically when he stumbled, blurry-eyed, into the kitchen. You have to warn a werewolf! We're not quite at the point of expecting to see a Dementor frying bacon. Creature glared at the man from where he was washing dishes as Harry let out a haunting chuckle. Harry Dementor is being nice to Wolfman and Bad Master. You should be nice to Harry Dementor, Creature warned with the narrowed eyes. Merlin, no! Remus exclaimed with wide eyes. I didn't mean to say anything mean. I'm sorry, Harry. I was just surprised. Harry screeched at Creature as he transferred the bacon from the pan to a platter. The house elf rolled his eyes but turned back to Lupin. Harry Dementor is too forgiving. He says it's no problem, and he would be surprised, too. Harry screeched a few more times for Creature to explain he was going to pick up Jamie before leaving the room. He didn't want to be in his Dementor form when Sirius woke up. Yes, his godfather knew what he was now, but he didn't want to make his life even more difficult than it was by reminding him of prison all the time. Harry picked up Jamie just in time as Sirius bounded down the stairs right after he returned to the kitchen. Presents! He exclaimed as he passed a poorly wrapped parcel off to Harry. Happy Christmas, Padfoot, Harry smiled at his godfather as he accepted the present. I'm sorry I couldn't go out and shop, but at least this will be useful. Sirius grinned excitedly as Harry struggled to remove the paper that was more tape than paper. You found them! The teen exclaimed as he removed a mirror from the paper finally. This is the communication mirror you told me about, right? Oh, wow. I forgot these existed. Remus looked over his shoulder at the mirror. Yup, we can now talk all the time, Sirius exclaimed before loading his plate with the breakfast Harry cooked. Did you cook this, pup, or Creature? Remus explained his surprise that morning of the Dementor cooking while Harry dug the presents from his friends out from under the tiny, shabby tree his godfather had set up in the corner. For you and you, Harry said, passing off presents to Remus and Sirius. Remus actually teared up as he unwrapped a 3-month supply of Wolfsbane potion. It was pretty expensive, but very necessary for a werewolf, especially one who lived in London. This is too much, Harry, he breathed out. Where did you even get it? Harry just shrugged it off. You'd be surprised what you can owl order. Besides, I'd rather spend my money on people I care for than sweets or Quidditch supplies, especially since sweets have no taste anymore and I can fly without a broom. Remus laughed, but pulled the teen into a hug. Thank you, then. I really appreciate it. Yeah, yeah, this is awesome too, Harry exclaimed when he realized that his present from Remus was all of his lesson plans for every class when he taught DADA 2 years before. This is going to help so much with the club. Harry dug through the rest of his presents to find another Weasley jumper in green again, warmer Quidditch gloves from Ron, since he was always cold now, and a scarf from Hermione, and jewelry cleaner to keep his necklace and bracelet shining. His heart was warmed that they knew him so well to give him gifts that he really needed, even though they didn't know he was a Dementor. However, everyone got a kick out of the present from Luna, which happened to be an entire box of different scented lip balms. Oh man, I love that fairy! Sirius laughed as he opened a tube of chocolate-scented lip balm to smell it. Of course, a Dementor needs a huge box of lip balm. Yeah, the other Dementors at Azkaban stole the stash I had on me when I visited. Harry chuckled. I was running low. What did you end up getting her? It had better be something good. She did fly all the way here to give you a kick in the bum, Remus asked with an unapologetic grin. Harry grinned happily, thankful he'd actually put some thought into Luna's gift. She and her dad are really into cryptozoology, though I suspect most of the things that sound mystical are actually real since she's a fairy and can see magic and all, Harry explained. I figured if they're going to go off on a safari and camp out during the summers, they should do it in style. I sprung for a wizard's tent for her and her dad. Wow, that's a good gift. Remus looked at the teen in surprise, since those tents were very expensive. But the gift also showed a lot of thought into her interests. You really like this girl, don't you? Sirius asked, actually looking thoughtful for once. Harry grinned and nodded at his godfather, blushing the whole time. Yeah, Padfoot, I think I do. I think Jamie would, too, even though he doesn't have a soul, he added at the end. Jamie? Sirius cocked his head questioningly. Harry pointed to his chest. The Harry suit, he clarified. Ah, the Animagus nodded and put an arm around Harry. I didn't know it had a name. Jamie seems like a nice name, though. You speak about your body like it's someone else, Remus questioned as he considered the discussion. Harry shrugged in discomfort. It is and it isn't. Jamie can't live without me and is a part of me. However, he doesn't feel like me anymore, either. It's easier to think about Jamie like I do Hedwig, more like a pet. You live a strange life, pup. Sirius shook his head in bemusement. You call your animagus form Padfoot, Harry raised an eyebrow, and Remus's wolf, Moony. How is this any different? Huh, Remus said simply, as he and Sirius looked at each other. I guess it isn't all that different. Harry looked at the sad tree in the corner. All right, I know it's all my fault since I ran off, but we really need to decorate better before the order comes for brunch tomorrow. You point and I'll cast. Sirius jumped up and pulled out the wand the order had found for him to use. We need to add a ton of mistletoe, though. My cousin will be here, and Moony has a bit of a crush. Remus turned bright red and coughed into his hand. Why, Remy, you and Tonks. Do share. Harry grinned at the werewolf, widely, and crossed his arms, settling in for a full day of jokes and decorating. What in the world happened while you were at Azkaban? Sirius exclaimed, as he held a copy of the Quibbler and Remus had one of the Daily Prophet when they walked downstairs for breakfast on Boxing Day. Paperwork? Harry grimaced. A whole lot of paperwork and negotiations. Did they publish the letter? Page 1 of the Quibbler and page 8 of the Daily Prophet, Remus said as he passed his paper over to Harry. Harry groaned when he read the title of the article in the Prophet. Hoax letter sent to Prophet. At least they still printed the whole letter. Remus sighed and shook his head, sadly. I doubt anyone is going to believe it, though, regardless. Or, especially, since it's also in the Quibbler. Here. Sirius passed the Quibbler over. Luckily, the headline was, Dementors resign after contract ends. Both papers printed the entirety of Harry's letter, and he smiled to see it in print. It read, To whom it may concern, we, the Dementors of Azkaban, hereby inform the magical community of Britain of our acceptance of a new contract. As our contract with the British Ministry of Magic ended almost a decade ago, and the Ministry has yet to renegotiate a new one, we offer this as our letters of resignation, and hereby inform the public of our intention to leave the present on January 3rd of the new year. We have had many offers of employment over the years, even a recent one from the newly reborn Dark Lord. We considered the Dark Lord's offer, but have determined his goals do not align with ours. We have accepted the contract offered by the Ministry of the Caribbean Magical Community. We strongly recommend new guards be assigned to Azkaban Prison by no later than 8 a.m. on January 3rd, when we will be leaving. We have appreciated our time as your guards and wish you the best of luck. The Council of the Autonomous Nation of Dementors. I had to make sure and work in Voldy's return. I had to make sure and work in Voldemort's return into the letter. Harry grinned at them both. They did actually really consider joining him until they realized that they'd only get bland-tasting souls in his employ. So they're really leaving? Sirius grinned in a relieved glee. Yeah, I think they're going to love the Caribbean too. Harry patted his godfather on the hand, knowing it was a miracle he was able to accept his godson with his fear of Dementors in general. They were all very excited. I really hope the Ministry takes them seriously. I can't believe the Prophet is saying the letter is a hoax. We also sent a letter directly to the Ministry. They only need to open their mail and read it to know it's not a hoax. It'll be a disaster if the prison is left unguarded. Remus looked skeptical that they would actually believe the letter. We should probably talk to Albus when he stops by later about this, he suggested. There's some nasty Death Eaters there that we really don't want to get out. Sirius shivered. Bella was just the hold down for me. I really don't want to see her without stone walls and bars between us. She was unbearable, even with stone and Dementors between us. The flue immediately flared in the kitchen as Dumbledore stepped out. Harry! Are the Dementors really leaving? He exclaimed, holding his own copy of the Quibbler in his hands. Harry sighed and stood, pulling a seat out for the headmaster. Sit, sir. I have to start cooking before everyone shows up for brunch, since those two are useless, and creatures shouldn't have to take care of everyone. We can talk while I cook. Excellent, my boy. The headmaster smiled at him indulgently. Oh, before we get into that. Dumbledore pulled a squishy package out of an enlarged pocket in his robes. Harry raised a questioning eyebrow, since he didn't normally get gifts from the headmaster, but he opened it anyway. His brain short-circuited as he realized what he was looking at. Taking a deep breath, he hugged the elderly man, who chuckled and patted him on the back. Thank you so much, sir! You appreciated them more than I did, Dumbledore smiled at his student. I shrunk them down a bit for you. Harry pulled the shiny star robes from the package and immediately put his arms through the sleeves. He did a quick spin in the kitchen and stared as the light caught the silvers in the stars. I've never had something so pretty! Sirius and Remus both groaned while Creature stared at him in horror. Creature thinks something is very wrong with his friend Harry Dementor, he commented as Dumbledore laughed and the other two men vehemently agreed. Besides Dumbledore promising to try to make the Ministry take the Dementor's letter seriously, nothing was decided before the full Order and their families showed up for brunch, creating a very full house. As promised, there was quite a bit of mistletoe lurking throughout the house. After an extremely successful brunch where Mrs. Weasley complimented Harry's cooking again, Harry recruited Ron and Ginny to help him and Sirius manipulate Tonks and Remus under all the mistletoe. They were successful about 5 times, but it was only the last time that Tonks even noticed the mistletoe, which led her to immediately snog the living daylights out of the werewolf. Remus looked slightly drunk the rest of the night. Everyone commented on Harry's new robes, mainly by giving him strange looks and noting that they must have been a gift from the headmaster. Ron just shook his head and commented that Harry should probably get a pair for Jamie, as well as a pineapple, just to get his point across. Harry instead offered to find his red-headed friend a pair so they could match, which caused Ron to choke on his eggnog and Fred and George to corner Dumbledore and ask where he had bought the robes. As everyone trickled out through the flue or the front door to apparate away, Dumbledore pulled Harry aside to give him an update. Harry, I haven't been able to get Umbridge out of the school yet, the man sighed as he sat down with the Dementor in the sitting room while Sirius and Remus were left to help Creature clean in the kitchen. Harry nodded, having expected this. It was too much to hope that she'd be gone by the new term. I figured, sir. I'll ask Hermione to help me brew some more essence of murtlap, I guess. Dumbledore shook his head sadly. No, my boy, I promise you, she won't be able to bring another blood quill into the school. I had to get help from the house elves. Dumbledore winced. Rather, Winky insisted they help. Anyway, they put up a new word that specifically won't allow dark artifacts to come into the castle. It's actually an extension of the post wards we have that keep the artifacts from coming in with the mail. Apparently, the elves are powerful enough to extend it completely around the castle. I had no idea, Dumbledore said, obviously impressed. Regardless, I'm put on notice that the woman has to go, and soon. Winky insists. Harry shrugged with a sigh. I'm sure Umbridge will find something else. I'm not giving up, Harry, the headmaster assured him. Just because the ministry isn't listening to me right now doesn't mean all is lost. I know you've had a terrible year with everything that's happened. You've lived through more than anyone should in your short life. I promise I'm not going to abandon you. Harry picked at the stars on his robes. Yes, sir. Thank you. Dumbledore patted his hand and stood to go. Have a good rest of your holiday, Harry. We'll handle the new year in the new year. Of course, sir. Harry was sitting at the breakfast table with Sirius and Remus the morning he was to head back to Hogwarts on January 4th. The kitchen was deathly quiet as they all stared into space, trapped in their own horrified thoughts. King and Athena are going to freak out, Harry finally breathed out. Drake will probably try to run off to kill someone. I hope they stop him. The older man looked at him questioningly. Dementor names don't translate into English, he shrugged in explanation. Sirius's hand ran down his face. Am I being too dramatic if I say this is officially the end of the world? He asked, in all seriousness. Remus picked up the paper again that had in bold letters across the front, Mass Breakout from Azkaban. I'm not so sure you are, Padfoot. He shook his head slowly. Headmaster Black was explaining to me the advantages of a good I told you so moment, but it just doesn't seem adequate right now. Harry closed his eyes and put his head in his hands. Stop talking to portraits in this house, Sirius said with no feeling. Cub. Remus leaned in and looked at Harry with a dark, feral look in his eyes. If Bellatrix Lestrange comes after you, you take her soul, you hear me? Don't question it. Don't think it's unethical. Just do it. You don't want to know what she did to Neville Longbottom's parents. She's insane, and worse now that she's been in Azkaban for years. Sirius nodded sharply. Yeah, Harry, Voldemort too. You end up in a bad situation, and you be a Dementor, not my Pronglet. Do you think any of them can cast the Patronus charm? He asked in curiosity. He'd thought about it a lot where Voldemort was concerned. Frankly, he didn't know where to find the monster, but if he could, and he couldn't cast a charm to repel a Dementor, Harry wondered if he could end it all. Sirius shook his head. Not Bella. Not after years in Azkaban. Voldemort? I don't know. Promise us you won't go after them, Harry. Remus took the Dementor's hand in his. Just because we don't know what can hurt Dementor doesn't mean there isn't anything. There is so much dark magic that Voldemort knows and we don't. Plus, you have to keep Jamie safe. Don't go looking for them. Mooney. Harry patted his dog father's hand in sympathy. That's the problem. I don't go looking for trouble. It just always finds me. Sirius groaned in frustration. Maybe the Caribbean with all the other Dementors was a good idea. And that's a wrap on chapter 13. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was actually a lot of fun. I know I enjoyed it. Um Please go show the original author, Ninja Panda Scholar, some love. Please leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. Please leave me specifically hate comments. I know, I'm weird for asking. All that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye, pups.